So, since today is Mother's Day, I thought it would be fun to rank all the Bluey moms from good to most good. Also, since apparently nobody, as far as I'm aware, have actually ranked these characters, yeah, the timing seems pretty appropriate. Now, before we dive into our absolute pure moms, let's talk about only one character who we have to rank in the gray area. Who's rather questionable, and this might be a bit of a controversial choice, but I'm gonna be placing Chris as our only questionable mom on the list. Now, morality-wise, Chris is actually a very kind and sweet person. But as a mom, she is... okay, there's a lot to talk about. Except one thing, we're not going to mention her being a grandmother to Bluey, Bingo, Muffin, and Socks because, well, she is being a nana/grandma and an actual mom to them. So we decided to leave those actions off the list. Otherwise, those would have pushed her easily into the good section. But anyway, we're mostly focusing her being a mom to Stripe, Bandit, and Rad. Now, right off the bat, I know we could easily give her a lot of points for how Stripe, Rad, and Bandit actually grew up to be great people. And yes, we do give her credit for that. But we have to rank her this low for some of her parenting methods that could be either questionable at least and absolutely dangerous at worst. For starters, in the fairy tale episode, at one point where she accused either one of her kids of eating all the mini cereals, Stripe and Rad immediately point to Bandit, and she actually chases Bandit with a flip-flop, attempting to possibly beat him with it. Now, I know they did make up for this later on in the episode, and obviously one of them did need some kind of consequence, but let me just say this right here. Abuse is never a good thing, even if it's something that actually is rather, well, okay, somebody eating all your food. Yeah, we understand your anger, but that doesn't justify anything. That proves that when push comes to shove, you could be an abusive parent. Honestly, there's not much else to talk about with her being younger back in the 80s when she was still a mom. Well, we don't have much to say for that, but another action we do need to bring up is when Bluey was still a baby. In the episode Baby Race, Chris at one point puts, well, we could assume all of her vegetable oil on baby Bluey's knees to try and help her to walk. Now, to her credit, she does sound like she has good intentions, but when Bandit does claim that this isn't legal, yeah, that is heavily questionable. Now, this and the part where she was abusive to Bandit could have easily pushed her into the bad section, but we kinda can't rank her any lower because, again, with this one in particular, she did have good intentions. And again, back in Fairy Tale, she did try to make up for what she did was wrong. Also, her love for her grandkids is what stops her, well, with a few other things, from her being an absolute bad mom. She isn't really bad, just heavily flawed. But hey, she has room for improvement, and that's our only questionable mom on the list. Okay, now the rest of the list will be pure good moms. Okay, so starting off the least good section, we have three moms who we're gonna rank together because they don't have that much to talk about. So starting off our least good section, well, bottom part of the list, we have Chloe, Snickers, and Pom Pom's mom all together. They barely have any screen time, and they don't really do too much during that screen time. For Chloe's mom in particular, we only see her interacting with Bandit and Wagon Ride. In Seesaw, we see her happily interacting with Chili and Bandit, and that's about it. Okay, Snickers' mom doesn't have any voice lines, and we only see her in the background with Snickers and Baby Race, and that's really about it. Now, you could argue they do deserve to be in the gray area for having almost barely any information, but we feel like they have to be at the bottom of our good list and only staying there, but not any higher. Because unlike Chris, these three are actual good moms who are at least trying their best as far as we can tell. Okay, now this next entry could possibly be with these three, but we feel like Jack's mom deserves slightly more good points. Now, we only ever see her in the army episode interacting with Jack, and she was just happy that Jack had a good day with Rusty. Otherwise, yeah, there's not really a lot more to give her a higher ranking, but we feel like she deserves a slightly higher ranking compared to the other three entries because, well, she at least appears in an episode for more than like maybe a few seconds. Next up is Honey's mom, Daisy. Now, we do see her twice, actually, compared to everyone else so far. She's mostly a background character in Spy Game and actually does appear in a short. And that's about it. We do see her just being a nice person in general, but Honey is a good kid, and she deserves credit for that. Otherwise, though, yeah, not really a lot more to talk about. We're sorry. Indy's mom is next. Now, the only time we have seen her was in a few scenes in the Market episode, and that's about it for her appearances. But hey, Indy is a good and helpful kid, and we could easily give Indy's mom, well, a bunch of points for that. The Terrier's mom equally has maybe slightly less screen time, but she deserves a slightly higher ranking for raising three good and heroic young men. Cause when we see the Terriers, except 2 times where they were being antagonists, they're actually being very helpful and trying to just be heroes. Otherwise, yeah, there's still not really a lot to talk about. But now we are finally getting to the characters who have at least more than maybe a minute or 2 of screen time. Cause up next is Mackenzie's mom. Now she is technically just a background character, but we have to give her a lot of points because Mackenzie is a good kid. He is kind and caring to his friends. And except the one part in the Curry quest, yeah, there's not really much more we could say about her, but she easily scores a very high ranking compared to everyone else so far. Morning, Wendy, you're up next. Now I know what everyone is going to say right off the bat. Wendy deserves a somewhat lower ranking because of how Judo was acting to Bluey and Bingo back in the Butterflies episode. But you need to remember that Judo actually did apologize and actually tried to be better towards the both of them in the end of the episode. After this, we do see Judo actually bonding much better than, well, the Butterfly episode as time went on, such as in Dirt, and in another episode where she was playing with Bluey and Bingo for a quick scene. Wendy does care about Judo. In fact, since we just talked about Dirt a second ago, remember where Wendy and even Judo herself decided to go completely bald so Judo can actually play in the Dirt with Bluey and Bingo? Wendy herself included was completely fine with it, just so that Judo could have fun. And if that is improving what she'll go through for her daughter, then this easily gives her a high enough ranking. But we sadly can't rank her any higher because our moms coming up just get better. And she doesn't have too much screen time other than Bandit or Pat saying Morning Wendy. That'll be funny. Right outside our top 5, we finally get to, well, technically the other healer mom, Trixie. Now, right off the bat, somebody could say that she deserves a lower ranking for how chaotic and crazy Muffin can be sometimes, but you have to remember that Muffin is equally a good and kind kid. Also, she is 3, so it's understandable why anyone at that age could be so chaotic with so much energy. As for Socks, while she can go instinctive back when she was on all 4s, it's understandable why. Besides, she actually got better when she started walking on her own 2 legs, and when she was able to talk. Now, I already made a video about Stripe and Trixie being good parents, so if you want more detail, then go ahead and check that out, cause I'm not gonna have that much more to say. Now, real quick, her putting a cone on Muffin so Muffin wouldn't stop sucking her thumb in Muffin Cone is pretty understandable. It does make sense at the end of the day. So, as on and on as we could talk about, Trixie more than deserves our spot just outside of our top 5. Okay, now entering our top 5, Chanel might be a bit of an odd place to have this high up, but we have our reasons. Even though she has made 2 appearances, it's still worth counting. The first of the 2 appearances that we'll talk about quickly is in Pass the Parcel. While yes, she did originally reject the idea that Pat suggested, even though she let him do it and not exactly her, she deserves some kind of credit for how the kids actually started getting used to, well, as they like to call it, Lucky's dad's rules. So we feel like she deserves at least a little bit of credit there. But we're mainly going to rank her this high because of the episode The Decider. When Chucky didn't know which team to choose, whether it be Chanel or Pat's team, Chanel didn't really mind because she just wanted her son to support whatever team he wanted. Now, I know this doesn't sound like much, but that's a lot from 2 people who do love soccer, or football as it's called over there. Plus, with Lucky and Chucky being good kids, we feel like Chanel being in our top 5 is a pretty respectful spot. Just outside of our final 3, we finally get to Rusty's mom. Now, we only see her in the cricket episode, but man, what a way to show what good of a mom she is. First of all, she immediately gains a lot of respect since her husband was in the military. And also we have to give her credit because raising 3 kids as a single mom is not easy in the slightest, but she managed to do it while her husband occasionally came down whenever he had free time. She still deserves a lot of points. From Rusty being a great kid to actually trying to be, well, okay, a pretend to be army soldier, as well as being close to excellent in cricket. For Dusty to be such a cute sweetheart, and for Digger to be a good older brother. Okay, look, I know we don't have that much to talk about since she only had 1 episode to deal with as well as a small cameo, but she easily deserves a very high ranking. Taking our bronze medal of good might be a bit of a surprise, but after you realize it, it's not really hard to see why Chili's mom gains our 3rd most good ranking. Now, the only time we ever do see and hear her is in the Dragon episode, where she just encourages a young Chili to not give up on drawing her horse. This alone would place her maybe in the middle of the list, but what really gives her this high of a ranking is how Chili turned out to be an excellent mom, and don't worry, we'll get to her in a bit. So yeah, even though it was more just a flashback than anything else, we still feel like after everything that happened during both her and Chili's lives, we feel like Chili's mom more than deserves our bronze medal of good. Taking our silver medal of good, we now get to the poodle mom herself, Bella. Now, right off the bat, when we saw her for the first time in Baby Race before the iconic scene, she seemed like just a normal everyday mom. But when we got to see her interact with Chili when she actually wasn't appearing at Mother's Group, you all know where this is gonna go. First off, her and her husband raising 9 kids is nowhere near an easy task. In fact, not even close. But she actually did it well. Now, we know nothing about her other 8 kids other than Coco, but we feel like they are all good people. And of course, her comforting Chili with the iconic quote of "You're doing great." What else can we say more than her deserving near the top of the list? But finally, taking our gold medal of good should be no surprise. It easily goes to Chili Healer herself. We could honestly describe her parenting in just a few words. Comforting, understanding, loving, actually understanding what her kids are going through, actually doing her best, helping her kids in whatever situation goes on, whether it be serious or a game that they made up. Making sure Bluey is a good mom in mom school, for example. Now, I know we can't list everything, but you all probably know how far we can go by just talking. This could go on for maybe a half hour at most. But yeah, that's about it. Chili Healer more than deserves our gold medal of good for being the best Bluey mom. No contest.